minor in psychology. Um, I'm so blessed and honored to be able to be here today and present this topic. This is a topic that is so important to me and so special to me. Um, so, Breaking down the wall, clinical songwriting to cultivate expression. So, for me, this passion for this presentation and this topic was really built from my personal experience. And it was expanded tenfold through my educational experience. Once I got to Berkeley and started doing research and taking classes, and then got into this songwriting major and started realizing the beautiful connection between the two, it um, really expanded that love and that passion for songwriting as a therapeutic intervention within music therapy. But as I said, it really did stem from a personal experience when I was a young kid. So I'd like to start and just begin with just a brief lived experience that I think is important to share for this presentation and for some context. So uh, to kind of give some backstory, I was when I was 14 years old. That was when I had really my first impactful experience with songwriting. Um, as a young 14-year-old kid who's also going through the normal teenage experience with hormones and high school drama, that kind of stuff, I also was living with an undiagnosed panic disorder, undiagnosed generalized anxiety, undiagnosed depression. I was having a lot of difficulties with my sexuality, um, and a lot of insecurities with the way I looked and the way I acted. Um, and there was just a lot happening as a young 14-year-old kid. Um, and I got to a point where it all came to a head and I kind of had a breaking point. And there was a moment where I got into a fight with my parents and I was feeling worthless and so sad and just empty. And I just ran to my room, um, and I just started writing. So I got into my room, I slammed my door, I locked the door, I grabbed my journal off the shelf and I just ripped a page out. I grabbed a pen and I just started writing, just like scribbling. I wasn't worried about writing a song. I wasn't worried about rhyming. I wasn't writing a poem. I was just writing. I was writing because I couldn't scream. I wanted so badly to just scream and shout and just let it all out. And I couldn't. I was in a house full of people. I didn't want to be labeled crazy. I didn't want to get yelled at more. I didn't want any more of that. So I just grabbed a pen, I grabbed a piece of paper, and I just wrote it all out. And I just let it all out. And after I was done, I kind of looked at it. I looked at the page, and I saw things like, "Let me free from this life. I want to be free from this soul. I want to be free from everything I've known." That's the kind of stuff I was writing. And when I saw this, I immediately, I grabbed my guitar, and I just started playing. I was 14. I was a musician. I was a guitarist, but I was still a young musician. So I just started playing. The first really thing that I knew, I knew this was going to be a sad song. So I was like, as like a young guitarist, it was like A minor. That's the sad chord. So I just kind of started playing the first thing I knew in A minor. It was the most basic minor chord progression, um, and I just started letting it all out. And I started structuring a song, but just it started flowing from that free write, and the experience was so cathartic, and it was a release that allowed the floodgates to open and it allowed me to feel comfortable and safe expressing. And it was for me, like it was out there and it was in some kind of like tangible form. It was in music, it was written, it was a melody, it was lyrics, it was chords, and it was there in a tangible form. So it felt real. So I was advocating for myself and I was recognizing and addressing that these feelings are real and what I'm feeling is real and okay. And it was just an amazing experience that really opened me up to so many more things with songwriting. Um, and once once I got to Berkeley, I started learning about music therapy and clinical songwriting. And I started realizing what happened that night and why it was so special and why it stuck with me all this time. It wasn't just this random thing. What was happening was um, techniques that are actually beautiful techniques to use in music therapy. And once I started putting all the pieces together, I had this wonderful structure that can be used to help clients express themselves, and I think it'd be really helpful. So I'm kind of going to go through, after hearing about this experience, kind of going to go through what happened that night and kind of what different techniques and different things I was using and what happened. So first, I want to discuss the idea of a free write. So for me, when I did this free write at 14, I didn't sit down and think like, okay, let's do a free write. It was just kind of, I had this emotion. I was built up. I was at the breaking point. I was really stressed. And there were all these ideas and these thoughts that I was just ignoring and not wanting to express and not really wanting to address because, you know, all in all, I was happy. I had a good life. So I thought like if I'm saying I want to be free, I want to be out of here, like I'm sad, I'm angry, then doesn't that make me selfish? Like I have a good life. I have loving parents. I have loving family. So I didn't want to express it, but this free write allowed me to just forget about all that and just allow myself to express this and allow myself to just get it out there. So it removes the presence of boundaries and interference of outside factors. So you're not thinking about melody or harmony or rhyme structure or rhythm. You're not thinking about any of that. You're not thinking about, I'm going to write a song. You're just letting your emotions out, just writing about what is on your mind, and not letting any boundaries or outside factors control that. And then important is banishing judgment and conditions. In a clinical sense, in music therapy, it's important that you throw away judgments, you throw away conditions. So as a client who's doing a free write, there should be no condition that if they write it and they don't want to share it, or they don't want to use it, or they don't like it, then it's just for them, and no one has to see it, no one has to hear it. It doesn't have to be used, and it's really important to. I really think it's important to set up that level of boundary and trust. Of like, you don't have to use this. This is for you. If you want to use it, if you want to become something more, it can. And then if it does become something more, it's your heart, it's your feelings, it's your truth, it's your honesty. No judgments. This is just allowing someone to feel safe and comfortable in expressing their emotions. Um, and then something that can be really helpful with a free write um, is finding a focus. So this isn't completely necessary with the free write. Sometimes you have something on your mind, you don't even need that focus. Like you have something that you want to get out, so you're just like, okay, I got it. But sometimes in a clinical setting, it could be a good thing to have a discussion, um, make this kind of a focal point of a discussion and talking to the client, and kind of figuring out, maybe pinpointing like a focal point and saying, okay, it sounds like, this is what you're struggling with, or this is what you want to talk about. So maybe focus on this when we write. And you can write at the top of your paper, come back to it. But sometimes it can be really helpful to push that along, um, if you have a focus. And then the last one is, which is so much easier said than done, is don't think, right. So this is, I really think this is more of like, this is where we're going and this is what we're striving for, but it's something you're never going to get 100%. Like there's always going to be those thoughts creeping into your mind, like, is this right? Like, does this make sense? Or does this go? Does this fit? There's always going to be those thoughts. Um, uh, just as humans, just wanting to be perfect and wanting it to be right and wanting it to be good. And so there's always going to be that element of, um, you can't help but think about what you're doing as you're doing it. But it's more so just to strive to kind of just let your mind go and just like write what you're thinking. It's almost the way that I sometimes think about it is, if you're in like a talk therapy session with someone, you're talking, you're letting out your thoughts. In this instance, it can kind of be helpful to think about it in that sense, where you're just, you're not filtering, not censoring. You just, whatever you would speak, whatever you would think, you're just letting it out, just writing it down. You can filter it later if you decide to use it, if you decide to write something with it, if you want it to become something, then you can filter it out later. Yeah, so we have the free write, and then something that the free write can be used for, um, something that can also be used in conjunction with the free write, um, is strategic songwriting. So in strategic songwriting, um, this is another element that I didn't even know I was doing, and I wasn't doing purposefully, right? Um, I just grabbed my guitar after I had my free write, and I just played a progression that I already knew, a progression that I already had. It was just what I had in my mind, and I just started forming a song to it. So this is kind of what strategic songwriting is, and what music therapists can use with clients when doing something like this. So provide structure. You have a song structure already prepared, whether it's a chord progression and some melodies, maybe some lyrics, and you have it prepared, and you bring it to the session. But it also leaves room for adaptation and creativity. So there's always room to add stuff and change stuff. If the client's like, oh, I don't think that sounds right, then you can change it. You know, there's always room for that. Um, but a big thing is that it relieves pressure for both parties, really. You know, you have that structure there. There's no pressure to improvise something great right on the spot. There's no pressure um, for the client to, oh, like, we have nothing. We have to build something from the bottom up. Like, oh, there's no pressure about that. About, you know, there's something there. It's ready. And then something that I think is really important is this using the strategic songwriting quickly provides a musical idea for a fresh emotional experience. So if a client just got done writing the free write and you know they're fresh with those emotions, having that structure already ready and you can just grab it and go can be helpful sometimes, depending on what the client needs. But it can be helpful sometimes to just be like, okay, it's fresh, you know what you want to say, it's out there, you have it. Now let's see what we can think of musically, how we can put it together. You know, that can sometimes be helpful to have that ready and not have to go through that whole process of figuring out the music. Um, so we have the free write and we have the strategic songwriting. These are two um, clinical tools that I think are really, really wonderful for helping an individual embrace their insecurities, their struggles, um, and really embracing who they are as an individual, embracing their experience, embracing their feelings, and embracing their emotions. Um, and I really think it can be um, a wonderful tool in clinical music therapy. Um, uh, and yeah, so now that we have the free write and we have strategic songwriting, we have those two elements. Now, what I'd like to do is put it to practice. So if anyone has, you can use if you have a laptop and your notes, or if you have um, paper and pen and pencil. Um, I would like for us to do about um, a 3 minute free write. So just for 3 minutes, we're just letting it out, writing whatever's on our minds, not censoring, um, not filtering, um, and then there's no pressure or um, obligation to share or anything like that. Um, so, is everyone ready? Everyone got their paper and pencil? Okay. All right. So I'm going to put 3 minutes, a timer for 3 minutes. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so that's time. All right. Okay. So how does everyone feel after that free write? Does anyone have anything they like to share? Any kind of initial emotions or feelings they have towards what they wrote or towards the experience?
In the chat, it says definitely feels relieving afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that this is an experience that kind of allows that cathartic feeling, that feeling of getting something out that maybe was sitting there for a while.
Wrote down things I didn't think I would write down or say out loud.
Yeah, I wrote out a few things too that I didn't even know I was thinking. It just kind of like came to me. Yeah.
Amazingly easy to do once you tap into your emotions at the moment. I think actually in my experience, something that showed that I think I learned is that sometimes it's the hardest exercise you will do, and sometimes it comes so natural. And I think when I do this type of exercise, it's been hard for me. And this was, I think, the first time that it just I just started writing, like no seconds of like, oh my
Yeah.
god, what I'm gonna write, like blah, blah, blah. But and I think what I'm going to this is to a certain degree, I don't want to say a skill, but I feel like it takes practice to get comfortable with the sort of like uncomfortable feeling of just writing whatever you're thinking in the moment.
Definitely. Definitely.
In the chat, some other comments says it was nice to put words and image to my internal experience. And another person says interesting that my thoughts flip flop from feelings to mundane stuff, and I want to do today.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of that experience that kind of just opens the floodgates and like anything could come out. You know, it might come out there like, oh, I gotta go grocery shopping today, but you know, it might be like, oh, but I'm feeling this. Like, it's definitely that experience that kind of, you know, you might have other things within it, but it's kind of filtering everything out and just getting all those thoughts out. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Right. Now, is there anyone that would like to share their free write or kind of what they focused on or anything that they learned or anything that they wrote?
There is actually this one last comment. It's a different mode of being than the typical critical way of operating when creating music.
Yeah, I think as musicians, it's really easy to get into that idea of like, oh, it has to be perfect, it has to be this way, and like structure, rhyme structure, rhythm, you know, and it can be really freeing to just allow ourselves to kind of forget about that for a second and just focus on something more free and open. Um, so if anyone doesn't like to share their free write, I'll share mine. Um, all right. So for me, being in this position of presenting, mine was a lot about nerves and anxiety and all that stuff. Um, and the way I kind of do it, mine looks really messy, but I kind of just like go thought by thought and just kind of sporadically place them on the page and just like putting all my thoughts out there. Just like every time a thought comes up, just writing it down. And then that's kind of how I do it. So I had, you know, I don't want to mess up, obviously. Should I have done something different? Is it going well? Are people enjoying it? I have my stomach hurts. Will I run out of time? I feel like I'm rambling. Um, What if I choke? I'm so nervous. I'm very anxious. Um, it's just a lot about that kind of stuff. Um, um, and definitely for real, like writing this out and just getting it out, I'm feeling, and even sharing it, I'm feeling like a weight off and more, more of like a connection and more kind of stable in my emotions and my feelings in this moment. Um, so then, like traditionally, what I would do, like in this position, is I would have something. So, like a progression could be something like. So you'd have like a progression like that, and you'd kind of play it, and you could, share with them some musical ideas, some melodies, so like. Ah, na, 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 no. Oh, mm. Just kind of like having some melodies going there, just kind of to help things move. Um, um, just kind of help things move, and and then you'd kind of incorporate their free write. So for a client, it can be a little daunting to just kind of improv and sing on the spot. Just like, okay, this works. It's like that can be a little daunting, especially if they're not musicians, or they don't have that skill set um, in that moment. Um, it could be hard. It could be daunting. So what you could do is have that and take their thoughts, take their free write, and kind of form it and see how they feel about it, and you can go back and forth with kind of collaborating. Like if you, so I started with this, but you could do like, just some finger picking, and maybe they like that better. And then if I take my free write, I'd be like, I don't want to mess up. Do they think I'm bad? Am I stupid? What if I choke? I am so nervous. I'm very anxious. I don't want to mess up. Mm. It's kind of like that. So you take it, and it's putting their words and their feelings into hopefully a pleasing and beautiful form, but also a very tangible form that they can see and hear, and they could record and listen back to. Um, and it just kind of puts their emotions and their feelings into that physical place where they're like, this is real, this is okay, and this is what I feel. Um, so that's pretty much that. And then finally, I have just a little page of helpful resources. Um, if no one's read anything by Felicity Baker and you're interested in clinical songwriting, I would highly, highly recommend reading Felicity Baker. Two books that I really love are Therapeutic Songwriting Developments in Theory, Methods, and Practice, and Songwriting Methods, Techniques, and Clinical Applications for Music Therapy Clinicians, Educators, and Students. In these books, she does case studies. She discusses specific things she uses with clients with specific, like sometimes she uses clients with trauma, older adults. She goes through so many different populations and experiences, and how you can use songwriting in those specific experiences, which is really, really great. And then also this website that I found a while ago. It has graphics basically for common major key progressions and common minor key progressions in many different keys, and just has all those progressions that if you're not too comfortable or confident in, with chord progressions or finding good chord progressions that work together, there's a ton right there that you can use and bring to sessions. And let me. Okay, so if I go to chat, okay, then there's the link to that. All right, so that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening and being involved, and thank you so much.
I am resending the link to the whole group. It was private message to me, but I just sent it to everyone.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
Oh,
put
no
it there.
worries. That happens to me
thank
all
you.
the time. Yes, thank you so much, Sebastian. That was great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. We got some thank yous on the chat. That was great. Well, thank you so much, Sebastian, for presenting from the Neuroantes board. I want to congratulate you for participating in this mini passages version, and keep doing the work. Keep thanks for sharing all your knowledge, and I hope that all of you. I actually at the beginning I told everyone the time, because our next presentation is actually at 12, not 12:30. So yeah, I just wanted to correct that information. But aside from that, I was just gonna give another virtual clap for Sebastian, either by emoji or in the screen. Yay!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me present. Thank you so much.
Of course, it was our
Thank you,
pleasure.
Sebastian. We can still speak out loud too. Thank you so much.
Yes, for sure. Yes, I'm gonna share the link one more time. There it is. Thank you, everyone.